The sun rose over the city kingdom of Altheria, its golden rays bouncing off the glass and metal towers that stretched like fingers into the sky. Altheria was a place of contradictions. Advanced machines whirred beside cobbled streets, and towering spires stood next to markets full of ancient charm. From a distance it seemed perfect, but those who lived here knew that perfection came with fear. At the heart of this city lived the Queen, a ruler whose intelligence was unmatched and whose will could crush the strongest of men. Her daughter, Princess Alara, was just as known, though not for power. She was known for her fragility, born with a condition that had left her unable to walk. Every year the Queen invited suitors from across the galaxy to her palace, not for love, but for challenge. Whoever could meet her impossible tests would earn the hand of her daughter and the respect of her people. Many had tried, and all had failed. Some had attempted to bribe the palace scientists. Others had brought machines designed to lift Alara off the ground. All had ended in failure, often embarrassing disasters that the Queen relished. The gates of the palace opened one morning to reveal a stranger. He was neither rich nor formally trained like the others. His clothes were simple, his tools few, and yet his eyes held a sharp spark, a kind of quiet confidence that drew attention. His name was Kale, a human engineer and explorer who had traveled through star systems, solving problems that others had considered unsolvable. Unlike the other suitors, he did not seek wealth or status. He sought challenge, and the Queen's impossible test was precisely that. Kale's arrival caused a stir among the crowd gathered at the palace gates. Nobles whispered to each other, some mocking him.
"Who is this peasant?" they said. "He has no machines, no armies."
He cannot succeed. Yet the Queen herself watched silently from her balcony. Her eyes were sharp, piercing through Kale as though she could see every thought in his mind. When Kale approached the palace hall, the Queen's guards stepped forward, blocking his path. He bowed respectfully but did not retreat. "I come to take your challenge," he said simply. His voice was calm, yet carried a confidence that silenced the murmurs. The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile.
"Many have said this before," she said. "They've failed."
"And so will you. My daughter cannot walk, and anyone who tries to make her do so risks humiliation and exile." Her tone was firm, leaving no room for argument. "I understand," Kale replied. "I do not fear failure." A wave of laughter ran through the hall. The nobles shook their heads, certain this man would join the long line of losers. Yet the Queen was intrigued. She had seen many clever men, but there was something different in Kale's composure, something human and uncalculable. That evening, Kale was led to Alara's chambers. He found her sitting by a large window, her delicate hands resting on her wheelchair. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, met his with a mix of curiosity and caution. She had met countless strangers who promised the impossible, and none had succeeded. "Hello," Kale said softly. "I am Kale. I am here to help you, if you wish." Alara studied him for a long moment. "No one has helped me before," she said quietly. "Everyone tries to force me into something I cannot do." Kyle nodded. "I will not force you."
"We will work together. If you agree, I believe we can succeed, step by step."
For the first time in her life, Alara felt a glimmer of hope. There was no arrogance in Kale's words, no desire for show or spectacle, just patience, understanding, and the hint of a plan she could not yet see. The next days were filled with observation. Kale watched how Alara moved, how her muscles reacted, and how her mind worked. Unlike the other suitors, he did not bring machines or potions on the first day. Instead, he asked questions, listened to her stories, and learned about her fears. Slowly, he began to understand that her inability to walk was not only physical. The years of isolation, the constant failures of others, and the Queen's strict rules had built walls of doubt inside her. Any attempt to make her walk would fail unless those walls were addressed. Kale worked quietly in the palace workshop, surrounded by metal scraps, wires, and small motors. He sketched ideas, built small prototypes, and tested them. The other suitors laughed when they saw his simple tools.
"You think you can succeed with this?" one of them sneered. "You are wasting your time."
"It is not the tools, but the understanding behind them," he said to himself. "And I understand her better than anyone else." Meanwhile, the queen watched from her private chambers. At first she dismissed Kale as another foolish human, but day by day she noticed his persistence, his cleverness, and the way he interacted with her daughter. Unlike the others, he did not intimidate or bribe. He listened. And that made him dangerous. Not physically, but mentally. A human who thought differently, who saw possibility where others saw only limits. Kale's first attempt to help Alara stand was small. He built a lightweight support exosuit, not to force her to move, but to give her muscles a gentle reminder of how movement felt. At first she resisted, scared of pain and failure. Kale did not push. He held her hand, encouraged her, and guided her slowly. The first day, Alara barely lifted her foot, her eyes filled with tears, frustration, and fear mingling. But Kale's calm voice reassured her. "That is enough for today. You did more than anyone else has done before." Over the following days, small improvements appeared. A half step forward here, a balance shift there. Each minor success became a triumph. Word spread through the palace. The other suitors sneered, claiming he would fail. But the people began to whisper differently. Perhaps this human was not like the others. Perhaps he would succeed where all others had failed. The queen, for the first time in years, felt a twinge of uncertainty. She had always believed that no one could make her daughter walk. But Kale was different. He did not rush. He did not demand obedience. And yet every day he edged closer to something she had not thought possible. One afternoon, Kale set up a small demonstration in the palace hall. The other suitors gathered, eager to see his inevitable failure. Alara was nervous, but she agreed, trusting Kale. Slowly, with his guidance, she rose from her wheelchair. Her legs trembled violently, but she stood, unsupported, for a few seconds, before sitting again. The hall fell silent. No one had ever seen such progress. Even the queen's lips parted slightly, a flash of surprise crossing her usually impassive face. "Impressive," Kale said softly, helping her back. "We will continue. Step by step. You will walk further each day." The other suitors' laughter faltered. They could not comprehend how a simple human with no armies or wealth could achieve something so extraordinary. The queen, for the first time, realized that her challenge was not about brute strength, technology, or status. It was about insight, patience, and human ingenuity. And Kale had them all in abundance. That night, as Kale rested in the palace guest quarters, he thought about the days ahead. Many obstacles remained. The palace was full of tests, some designed by the queen herself to thwart progress. Public demonstrations, dangerous mechanisms, and the scrutiny of thousands of eyes would challenge both him and Alara. But he did not fear. Humans had a unique ability to adapt, to learn, and to persevere in the face of impossible odds. And Kale knew one thing for certain. No matter what the queen expected, he would succeed. Not because he was stronger than the others, but because he understood the most important principle of all. Humans were capable of more than the impossible. And together, he and Alara would prove it. The first part of the challenge was over, but the true journey was just beginning. The city of Altheria, its queen, the skeptical suitors, and even the citizens who had doubted him would soon witness something extraordinary. A human had accepted an impossible task, and against all odds, he had made the first step. And that first step, small as it was, would echo across the palace, across the kingdom, and perhaps across the galaxy. The days after Kale's first success passed quickly, yet every hour was filled with careful planning and cautious effort. In the palace, whispers spread like wildfire. The people could not believe what they had seen. A human, ordinary in appearance, without armies or titles, had helped Princess Alara rise on her own legs, if only for a few moments. The queen, however, remained skeptical. She did not underestimate Kale, but she trusted very little in what she could not control. She watched him closely, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Kale spent each morning in the palace workshop, surrounded by gears, wires, and metal plates. He worked on improving the exosuit, making it lighter, smoother, and more flexible. Each adjustment was subtle, designed not to force movement, but to guide it. He knew that the body would follow only if the mind believed it could. And the mind for Alara had long been filled with doubt. Alara came to the workshop each day, her violet eyes still cautious but filled with a growing sense of curiosity. At first she had feared failure. She had seen so many attempts by strangers who promised results but ended in pain or embarrassment. But Kale was different. He never mocked her, never scolded her for trembling or falling. He simply encouraged, "We will try together, one step at a time." Their first few sessions were filled with small victories. Alara could lift one leg, then the other, while Kale held her gently. Sometimes she stumbled and fell. Sometimes her legs shook violently, yet Kale never allowed frustration to enter his voice. "That is part of the process," he said. "Every failure is a step toward success." Outside the workshop, the other suitors grew restless. They had expected Kale to fail, and yet he persisted. They watched from the palace balconies and whispered to one another, their pride wounded by a human who dared to challenge the queen's rules. One of them, a wealthy merchant with machines more advanced than any in the kingdom, sneered. "Do you see this? Boo. Boo. He has no real power, no knowledge of high science, yet he progresses where we cannot. It is absurd." The queen allowed herself a faint smile. She had seen cleverness before, yes, but Kale's approach was different. He combined intelligence with something she had not expected: patience and empathy. He understood that the challenge was not just about technology. It was about Alara herself. One afternoon, Kale proposed a new exercise. "Today, we will try walking along a narrow path," he said. He had set up a wooden walkway in the workshop, just wide enough for Alara to place her feet carefully. Beneath it were soft cushions in case she fell, and Kale had installed tiny sensors along the edge to detect shifts in weight. Alara hesitated. "What if I fall?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You will not fall," Kale assured her, though even he knew there was risk. "And if you do, I will be right here to help you. You are stronger than you think." With his guidance, Alara placed her foot on the path. The exosuit whirred softly, adjusting to her balance. She shifted her weight, and Kale held her hand, steadying her. A small gasp escaped her lips as she managed a few steps. The walkway was short, only a few meters, but it was progress. The next day, Kale decided it was time for a greater challenge. He had learned from observing Alara that she responded to encouragement better than pressure. He arranged a series of small obstacles along a hallway in the palace: low steps, slight inclines, and soft barriers. These were not dangerous, but they forced Alara to use coordination, balance, and concentration. As Alara navigated the course, Kale stayed beside her, guiding, encouraging, correcting. Sometimes she stumbled. Sometimes her legs quivered, threatening to collapse under her weight. Each time, Kale helped her regain balance, gently reminding her of her progress. "You have done this before. You can do it again," he said. Word of these training sessions reached the public. Citizens and minor nobles gathered in the hallways to watch, whispering excitedly. Rumors spread that Kale had found a method no one else could. The queen, observing from her private balcony, frowned. She did not like the attention Kale was receiving, nor the admiration he was beginning to earn. Yet she could not deny his results. Then, one morning, disaster struck. Kale had prepared a new session involving a more advanced exosuit prototype. It was lighter, faster, and capable of providing dynamic support. But the technology was experimental, and the sensors had not been fully tested. Elara stepped onto the platform, her small hands gripping KL's, the exosuit activated with a quiet hum. At first, everything went smoothly. She took a few steps, then a few more. Confidence began to grow in her eyes. But suddenly, a sensor malfunctioned. The suit jolted unexpectedly, and Elara stumbled violently. She fell to the ground, panic flashing across her face. Gasps echoed through the workshop. The crowd outside who had gathered to witness progress cried out. Even the Queen, watching from above, felt a moment of tension she had not experienced in years. Kale acted instantly. He caught Elara before she could hit the floor, holding her close.
"It's okay. It was the suit, not you."
"You are safe," he said. His voice was calm, steady, reassuring. Elara's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but frustration. "I can't do it. I never can," she cried. Kale shook his head gently. "Yes, you can. You have already done what no one else could. A stumble does not erase that. We learn from every mistake, and we try again." It took hours of patience to calm her down. He removed the exosuit and let her rest. They spoke quietly, Kale listening to her fears, acknowledging them, and reminding her of her strength. Slowly, her breathing steadied, and she nodded. "I want to try again," she said softly. The Queen, observing from her balcony, frowned deeper. She had expected failure, yes, but she had not expected Kale to recover so quickly to calm her daughter and continue. She realized with a flicker of unease that this human possessed something rare: resilience, adaptability, and the ability to inspire confidence where others only created doubt. Hale spent the following days redesigning the exosuit, reinforcing sensors, and simplifying controls. He tested every component himself, predicting potential malfunctions and finding solutions before they could occur. When he was satisfied, he returned to Elara. "Today we will try again," he said. "We will go slowly, step by step, and we will succeed together."
Elara nodded.
She trusted him now. She had begun to believe that walking might not be impossible. Kale guided her to the platform. This time, he did not rush. He let her feel the ground beneath her feet, adjusting her balance, guiding her muscles without force. Slowly, steadily, she took a few steps, then more. The exosuit hummed smoothly, supporting but never controlling. The palace hall was quiet. The other suitors who had gathered to witness this attempt watched in disbelief. Nobles whispered, eyes wide. Even the Queen allowed herself a small exhale, tension easing slightly. Elara walked across the platform, supported by Kale's gentle hands. Step by step, she moved forward, her confidence growing with each motion. She smiled, a small, radiant expression that lit the room. When she reached the end, Kale released his grip. She stood alone, steady, breathing deeply, victorious. A cheer erupted from the gathered crowd. The other suitors shrank back, their pride wounded, realizing that Kale had done what none of them could. The Queen's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with the realization that her challenge had taken a turn she had not anticipated. This human was not only clever, but persistent, empathetic, and capable of solving problems in ways others could not. For Kale, it was not the applause that mattered, but the small victory in Elara's eyes. She had believed in herself for the first time, and that belief was stronger than any machine or method. Together, they had overcome failure, fear, and doubt. That night, Kael and Elara sat by the palace window. The city lights glimmered below, 1,000 stars reflected in the glass towers. Elara turned to him, her face serious but glowing with quiet pride. "Do you really think I can walk completely one day?" she asked. Kale smiled, placing a hand over hers. I know you can. It will take time, patience, and courage, but every day you are closer, and I will be here with you every step of the way." Elira's lips curved into a small smile. "Then I will try." I will not let fear stop me again." And so the palace of Altheria buzzed with a new energy. A human had accepted an impossible challenge and was beginning to succeed. The other suitors grew anxious. The citizens whispered excitedly, and the queen watched carefully, aware that the tides were shifting. Kale's ingenuity, patience, and humanity were changing more than Alara. They were beginning to change the entire kingdom's understanding of what was possible. The journey was far from over. Greater challenges awaited, obstacles both mechanical and emotional, and the queen's tests were only growing harder. But Kala had proven one unshakable truth. Humans could rise to meet impossibilities with creativity, resilience, and heart. And with that truth, the impossible began to look just a little bit possible. The morning sun spilled across the palace of Altheria, bathing its towers and gardens in a golden light. News of Alara's progress had spread throughout the kingdom. Whispers floated through the streets and marketplaces, carried by merchants, travelers, and palace staff alike. A human had made the princess take her first steps, a feat once thought impossible. The citizens of Altheria were curious, excited, and for the first time in many years, hopeful that the impossible might not be so impossible after all. Inside the palace, however, the queen's expression remained unreadable. She had watched Kale and Alara closely for days, and though she could not deny their progress, she did not intend to make things easy. The challenge was not only for the princess to walk, it was for Kale to prove himself under pressure, in front of the court and before the entire city. The queen knew that making the trial public would test not only Alara's courage, but Kale's ingenuity. She summoned him to her chambers. The room smelled faintly of jasmine, and the golden light of the morning sun reflected off polished marble floors. "Kale," the queen began, her voice calm but sharp, "your progress is remarkable. Yet I fear you underestimate the difficulties ahead."
I will set a final trial.
"You and my daughter will face the Hall of Trials." Kael listened carefully, his calm expression betraying none of his anticipation. "I will accept any trial, Your Majesty," he said. His voice held the certainty of one who had faced impossible odds before. The queen raised a single eyebrow. "The Hall of Trials is not a simple path. It is filled with obstacles that test strength, balance, intelligence, and courage. Most fail within the first few steps. If you succeed here, you will have proven your worth." Kale nodded.
"Then we will begin."
Preparations began immediately. The Hall of Trials was a long chamber stretching across the palace's eastern wing. Its floor shifted unpredictably, with moving panels, raised steps, and platforms that tilted at random angles. Sensors monitored every motion, some designed to detect hesitation, others to create gentle but real hazards. The queen had designed it to ensure only the most capable could reach the end. Kale studied the hall carefully. Machines alone could not solve this. It required careful planning, observation, and a human touch, qualities he had learned to rely on. Alara, meanwhile, felt a mixture of excitement and fear. She had come far, yet the Hall of Trials intimidated her. The obstacles seemed alive, shifting under their own will, daring her to fail. Kale knelt beside her, adjusting the exosuit that now fit more comfortably, and responded to her movements with precision. "Remember," he said, placing his hand over hers, "it is not about speed. It is about control, balance, and trust. You can do this. I will be with you every step of the way." She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. They entered the hall together, the noise of spectators from above fading behind the heavy doors. At first, the path seemed straightforward. A few steps, a platform, a slight incline. Kale guided her slowly, monitoring her balance, correcting her stance, whispering encouragement. Step by step they moved forward, each motion deliberate, controlled and careful. Then the first challenge appeared, a series of tilting platforms, each slightly higher than the last. The surfaces shifted beneath their feet as they advanced. Cale's hand rested lightly on Alara's back, guiding her through the movements while his other hand supported her wrist. The exosuit adjusted to the shifting platforms, lending subtle assistance without forcing her body. Alara's heart pounded. One false step could mean a stumble, and in the Hall of Trials, stumbles were closely monitored. Failure here would not only humiliate her in front of the court, but could undo all the confidence she had gained. She bit her lip, focusing on Cale's calm instructions. Slowly, carefully, she lifted one foot, then the other, moving across the first set of platforms. Behind them, hidden sensors recorded every step. The queen observed from her balcony, flanked by nobles who murmured, anxiously. Most expected disaster, yet Cale's precise guidance and Alara's determination defied expectation. Next came a low barrier, requiring her to lift her legs higher than before. Cale demonstrated the movement, encouraging her with patience. She faltered once, nearly tipping to one side, but Cale caught her quickly, steadying her. "You are stronger than you know," he said. "Try again. This time, trust your legs." With a deep breath, Alara lifted her legs, clearing the barrier. A small cheer escaped her lips. Cale smiled, sensing her growing confidence. This was not only a physical trial, it was mental. Every obstacle tested her belief in herself. With each success, her fear diminished, replaced by determination. The third challenge was the trickiest, a series of panels that moved independently, some rising, some lowering, creating gaps that had to be crossed precisely. The crowd above the hall held its breath. Cale assessed the situation quickly, spotting patterns in the panel movements. He whispered instructions, guiding Alara's timing, nudging her slightly as she stepped, encouraging her when she hesitated. Her legs trembled, but she moved forward with focus, step after step. One misstep would have sent her sprawling onto the padded floor, but Cale's precise guidance kept her steady. When she reached the end of the panels, the hall erupted with applause, though the trial was far from over. The fourth challenge tested agility and reflexes. Now, small mechanical obstacles sprang from the floor at unpredictable intervals, requiring Alara to dodge, pivot, and adjust her weight constantly. Cale's eyes were sharp, anticipating each movement, guiding her subtly, using the exosuit's adaptive systems to prevent falls. Alara's pulse raced, sweat forming on her brow. Yet she moved with a grace she had never known. Every jump, every pivot, was a triumph of courage and trust. Cale spoke quietly, calmly, reassuring her when she faltered. "You can do this," he said. "One more step, you are almost there." Finally, the last obstacle appeared, a narrow walkway over a soft pit. It seemed simple, yet the pressure was immense. All the trial so far had led to this moment. The spectators above were silent, eyes fixed on the two of them. The queen leaned forward, curious to see if Cale's methods would succeed where all others had failed. Alara stepped onto the walkway, her legs steady despite the exhaustion. Cale guided her hand, whispering encouragement. Step by step, she moved forward. The exosuit responded perfectly, adjusting balance subtly, supporting her movements without interference. The pit beneath seemed deeper than it was, yet she trusted Cale, and she trusted herself. Halfway across, a sudden tremor in the walkway caused her to wobble. Gasps echoed from above. Cale reacted instantly, pressing a sensor on the exosuit, stabilizing her balance while holding her wrist gently. "You are safe," he said. "Focus on the next step, one at a time." Alara nodded, determined. She lifted her foot, then the other, continuing her progress. With the final step, she reached the end of the walkway. A cheer erupted from the crowd above, a roar that seemed to shake the hall. She stood alone, upright, victorious. breathing heavily but filled with pride. The queen, usually composed and reserved, allowed herself a faint smile. She had underestimated Kale, and she realized it now. He had achieved what others had failed to do. With patience, understanding, and a keen mind, he had guided her daughter through the most difficult trial in the kingdom. Not only had he succeeded, but he had done so while teaching Alara to believe in herself. Kale stepped forward, taking her hand, and smiled. "You did it," he said softly. "All of it. You are stronger than you imagined." Alara looked up at him, her eyes shining. I walked," she whispered. The realization filled her with a mixture of amazement and joy. For years she had believed walking was impossible. Now she had done it. The other suitors watched in stunned silence. Their arrogance, their reliance on technology and force, had been no match for human ingenuity, empathy, and determination. Kale had succeeded not through power or wealth, but through understanding, strategy, and trust. The queen descended from her balcony, her robes flowing gracefully behind her. She approached Kale and Alara, her eyes fixed on both of them. "You have surpassed all expectations," she said. "Not only have you made my daughter walk, but you have done so with wisdom, patience, and skill. You have proven that true strength lies not only in machines or wealth, but in the heart and mind of a human." Alara smiled shyly, looking up at her mother. I can do more now," she said softly. "I want to keep walking. I want to learn." The queen nodded. She had set a challenge to test Kale, but the greater lesson had been revealed. Humans, when guided by intelligence and empathy, could achieve the impossible. She looked at Kale with newfound respect. "You have earned my admiration," she said. "And though I did not expect it, you have succeeded where others have failed. The kingdom will remember this day." Kale bowed slightly, his expression humble. "Thank you, Your Majesty. It is not just my success, but hers." Alara believed in herself, and that made all the difference. The hall echoed with applause, not only for Alara but for the demonstration of what humans could accomplish when determination, trust, and ingenuity combined. Kale and Alara had faced the impossible together and emerged victorious, and the kingdom of Altheria had witnessed the triumph of heart and mind over fear and doubt. That night, the city seemed brighter, lanterns reflected in the polished streets, citizens whispered stories of the human who had made the princess walk, and a sense of hope filled the air. Kale and Alara sat together, sharing a quiet moment of triumph. "We did it," Alara said softly. "Yes," Kale replied, smiling. "But this is only the beginning. There are still challenges ahead, and we will face them together." And as the stars shimmered above Altheria, one thing was certain. Humans had once again proven that they could achieve what others deemed impossible. The Hall of Trials was silent now, but the echoes of applause and gasps still lingered in the air. Princess Alara stood tall, her legs steady and confident. For the first time in her life, she had walked on her own, not just a few steps, not just across a narrow platform, but through an entire sequence of challenges designed to test every limit of strength, balance, and courage. She had succeeded where every other suitor had failed. Kale stood beside her, his calm expression softening into a quiet pride. He had guided her, encouraged her, and helped her believe in her own strength. And now, in this moment of triumph, the kingdom saw the proof that humans could rise above the impossible through patience, intelligence, and trust. The queen descended from her balcony, her robe flowing like liquid gold behind her. The hall fell silent as all eyes turned toward her. Nobles, guards, citizens, and even the remaining suitors held their breath. The queen's face, always so controlled, revealed only a flicker of emotion. Surprise mingled with admiration. She approached Kale and Alara, stopping a few steps before them. You have proven more than I expected, the queen said, her voice calm but carrying weight. Not only have you made my daughter walk, but you have done so with wisdom, skill, and patience. You have earned my respect, and the kingdom has witnessed it.
Kale, you have succeeded where all others have failed.
Your Majesty, it was not my success alone. Ilara believed in herself, and that made all the difference. Ilara looked at her mother, her violet eyes shining with both pride and hope. Mother, she said softly, I can walk. I can do more. I want to learn, to move freely, to experience the world like others. The queen studied her daughter for a long moment. She had always wanted Ilara to grow strong, but her protective instincts had kept her sheltered. Now she realized that true strength came not from isolation or control, but from encouragement, trust, and the guidance of those who believed in you. A slow smile touched her lips. Very well, she said.
Kale, you have earned the promise I made. You may marry my daughter, if that is her wish.
And you, Ilara, have earned the freedom to walk, to explore, and to grow as you wish. A murmur of astonishment ran through the hall. The suitors, many of whom had failed in their attempts, lowered their heads in disbelief. The citizens whispered among themselves, admiration and awe spreading rapidly. Kale had not only succeeded in the challenge, but had reshaped the kingdom's understanding of human potential. Ilara turned to Kale, her voice filled with both excitement and gratitude. I want to walk with you, not just through challenges, but through life, if you wish it. I will marry you. Kale smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not expected. I will be honored, he said softly. But more than that, I am proud to have helped you find your strength. That is the greatest reward of all. The queen stepped forward, placing a hand gently on her daughter's shoulder. Kale, she said, her tone carrying both authority and approval, you have proven that humans can achieve what others think impossible. Your ingenuity, patience, and care have inspired us all. Altheria will remember this day for generations. Outside the hall, the people of the city had gathered to hear the news. Word of Ilara's success spread quickly, reaching every street, every market, every tower. Citizens cheered, praising Kale, Ilara, and the demonstration of human resilience. For many, it was a reminder that determination, intelligence, and empathy could overcome even the most impossible odds. In the following days, Kale and Ilara continued their training, but now it was different. There was no fear, no pressure. Each session became a celebration of progress. The exosuit, once essential, became a tool for refinement rather than necessity. Ilara walked freely through the palace gardens, across the halls, and eventually beyond the palace walls. She discovered a new sense of independence and joy. The city that had once seemed distant and unreachable now felt within her grasp. Children followed her in the streets, inspired by her courage and determination. Citizens whispered that if a princess could overcome such odds, perhaps they, too, could rise above their challenges. The queen, observing her daughter, felt a mixture of pride and humility. She had tested Kale and Ilara, but the lessons learned were hers as well. Control, protection, and fear of failure had never been as powerful as trust, guidance, and patience. She realized that humans could achieve the impossible not through force, but through insight, resilience, and heart. Kale worked alongside Ilara, refining her abilities and helping her explore her newfound freedom. Together, they created programs to help others with disabilities, using technology and guidance in a way that empowered rather than restricted. The palace became a center of learning, experimentation, and hope, inspiring innovation throughout Altheria. The former suitors, many humbled by their failures, observed quietly. Some left the kingdom in shame, others in admiration. They realized that true success was not measured by wealth, power, or brute force, but by intelligence, creativity, empathy, and the willingness to persevere when all odds seemed against you. One evening, Kale and Ilara stood at the palace balcony, looking over the city as the sun dipped below the horizon. The streets shimmered with lantern light, and the distant stars reflected off the towers like diamonds. Elara took Kale's hand and smiled. "I never thought I could walk, let alone like this," she said softly. "But now I see that with patience, trust, and support, anything is possible." But Catalina squeezed her hand gently. "Humans are capable of remarkable things. You have proven that. And together, we can face whatever challenges come next." Elara nodded, a sense of determination and hope filling her. She had begun her journey with doubt, fear, and limitation, but now she had walked through every obstacle, faced the impossible, and emerged victorious. And with Kale by her side, she knew that no challenge, however great, could stop her. The Queen, watching from her chambers, allowed herself a rare smile. The kingdom had witnessed a triumph unlike any before. Humans had shown ingenuity, resilience, and courage in a way that inspired everyone. And her daughter, once fragile and uncertain, had become a symbol of strength and hope. In the following months, Kale and Elara's story spread beyond the city walls, reaching distant worlds and civilizations. Scholars, engineers, and leaders marveled at the ingenuity and compassion that had turned a simple challenge into a demonstration of human potential. Stories of perseverance, clever problem-solving, and the bond between teacher and student inspired generations. Elara continued to walk freely, gradually exploring the city, the gardens, and eventually the countryside beyond Altheria. With Kale's guidance, she learned to navigate new environments, face unforeseen obstacles, and grow stronger with each step. Every achievement reinforced the lesson that human determination, when combined with empathy and ingenuity, could surpass the limitations set by nature or expectation. The Queen honored her promise fully. Kale and Elara's marriage was celebrated across the kingdom, a joyful union that symbolized not only love but triumph, intelligence, and trust. Yet the real victory was more profound. The kingdom had learned that humans, through resilience, insight, and courage, could accomplish the impossible. On their wedding day, the palace gardens were filled with citizens from every corner of the kingdom. Kale and Elara walked together hand in hand, showing the world that the journey from doubt to triumph was possible. Their story became legend, a reminder that no obstacle was too great for those willing to persevere, to trust, and to act with intelligence and heart. In the years that followed, Altheria flourished. Innovations in medicine, education, and technology spread. Inspired by Kale and Elara's achievements, the palace became a center of learning and experimentation, a place where challenges were met with curiosity and courage. Humans, with their unique combination of intelligence, determination, and empathy, became a symbol of hope and possibility across the galaxy. Elara, now fully independent and confident, often walked through the city streets, teaching others, encouraging children, and showing that even the most impossible obstacles could be overcome. Kyle remained by her side, guiding, teaching, and learning alongside her. Together, they proved that human ingenuity, resilience, and compassion could surpass even the highest expectations. And as the sun set over Altheria, casting golden light over the towers and streets, the city remembered that humans were capable of greatness, not through power or wealth alone, but through the combination of heart, mind, and courage. The impossible had been achieved. The princess walked, the kingdom witnessed, and humans proved once again that nothing was beyond their reach.